So we're back up and running with the Premier League and that rarest of things, an Everton victory at Spurs. First time in a dozen years, a 1-0 win. Brian Kerr was alongside me watching it, and a lot to like from that Everton performance.
Yeah, very good. Composed at the back, well organised, no errors, not one error in the match. In the back four, the goalkeeper, Pickford played very well. I would have said totally in control in the midfield area. Allan, Rodriguez, very good. Kerr, very good. Andre Gomez, very good. And then Richarlison was a threat the whole game. Calvert-Lewin got a magnificent goal. And they were the better team by far today, and a bit of hope for Everton fans who may have been disappointed, would have been disappointed last season, finished 12th. And also wondered what they were getting with the players that they've signed. People would know the Corey, but he wasn't a standout player in the Premier League. Someone that I have to say I liked when I watched Watford. I always thought he looked a player capable of playing for a better side. Allan was one that, unless you watch a fair bit of Italian football or Napoli in the Champions League this season, maybe a lot of people wouldn't have known him that well, but he was superb today. James Rodriguez, obviously been around a bit, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Monaco in the past, great World Cup in 2014, but hasn't done a huge amount since.
Well, he was the one today because, listen, it's one game and Everton fans have had their fair share of false stones and seen any amount of players come in and huge money being spent, and it hasn't worked out for them. And they end up in a position last season where, as you say, like, it's their worst finish, I think, in 16 seasons. But you've got the energy of Decore, Allan technically looked very good. But James Rodriguez was probably the most intriguing signing of the off-season of any club, in that, like, 2014, people are talking him up as being one of the best players in the world, and hasn't quite happened. But, geez, there were signs there today that...
Well, you can see he has special ability. I mean, it was his goal scoring at the World Cup in 2014, remember. But you could see his technical ability and awareness of where he was on the pitch and what was on, what pass was on, and where his teammates were. I mean, the number of times he picked it up on the right-hand side in space, it's never seemed to be a Spurs player tight enough to him to affect him. He was able to pick out Richarlison numerous times with crossfield passes, but his combinations also with Allan and Andre Gomez were very good. Decore gave energy and mobility in that area of the pitch. But it was an exciting signing, and he wasn't far away from scoring. He had a couple of shots, one saved, one just outside the post as well. He tried to Decore with his left foot. So you can see him getting goals, and you can see him adding to the creativity that Everton have missed. I mean, not alone last year they finished 12th. You have to remember that before Ancelotti came in, they were down scrapping near the relegation zone at Christmas.
Yeah, and I guess before Everton fans get carried away as well, they won't have many matches where that midfield will probably have it quite so easy. Firstly, teams will be aware of them, but Spurs were miles off it today.
Yeah, I'd make some allowance for them, Nathan, in that it's the week, a very uncomfortable week for the managers of the clubs in the Premier League, with so many other players away playing in international football. And if you look at Spurs starting team, there was a fair few of them. I mean, Davies would have been playing for Wales, and Eric Dyer was away playing. Alderweireld also Belgium. Look, Winks wasn't, Højbjerg was, the attacking positions, then Kane certainly was. I'm not sure whether Moura was away, but you know, it's an awkward one for managers because it's such an important week where you're juggling the team in your head, and you get to the stage where you know the team you want to play, and then they're all gone away. And you can't work with them on the pattern of play and the tactics you want to use against the opposition. The opposition that you know you're going to play against, and then you're waiting on them to come back. And then they come back, and some of them have little knocks, and they're probably getting treatment. And it's hard to put the team out on the pitch and do the shape work that you'd like to do. That is the one kind of excuse I'd give for Spurs about the performance, because it was disjointed. the Højbjerg didn't seem to particularly know what his role was. Matt Doherty, as the other new player, knew what his role was, and he played, I would say, okay. He had a hard time against Richarlison. He almost scored in the first half. Defensively, in a 4, does he know how to do it well enough to be good enough for Spurs? That remains to be seen.
Football moves on quite quickly, and maybe it's unfair to compare this team to Spurs at their best under Pochettino, but when you're going through the players there, like Davies now compared to Danny Rose at his best, Dyer at centre half compared to Vertonghen, Winks compared to Moussa Dembele, quality wise, like, can they achieve much this season? Like, is that a Tottenham team you go, you know what, they've got the players there to finish top 4, or do they need a bit more?
Well, they had last year they started the season badly with the team that were in the Champions League final. Let's sum it up. The Champions League final, they got there, a bit fortunate to get there, finished fourth in the Premier League, as well as getting to the Champions League final. There was very little happened in terms of the team. Almost the same team started last season. And Dembele was the one big signing, brought in 50 or 60 million. You've the likes of Sessignon come in from Fulham, Gelson Fernandes come in, and those players have added nothing to what they had. I mean, it ended up that the same players were playing with Eriksen still among the mix, until it was decided that Eriksen was gone and there wasn't much sense in playing him. So they had a very average season last year. I mean, they were knocked out of the League Cup by Colchester, knocked out of the FA Cup by Norwich, knocked out of the Champions League by Leipzig, a 4-0 aggregate without really getting a kick of the ball in either match. February, March were very poor last year, and that's under Mourinho. Then we had the long break. They come back in July, and they picked up a bit. Some players were back fit again that hadn't been playing. Harry Kane been out injured, and they were better in that period, but not miles better. It was often counter-attack football, and using the pace of Son and Moura and Harry Kane's brilliance and ability to score goals. But I could never have said that I was very impressed by Tottenham last year.
Anyway, we were interrupted by an alarm there. Sorry, Brian.
So looking back at Spurs and looking at the Spurs season, that long season of however long it went, I think it went for a full year. They came back and they had better results. I think it was 5-3-1 over the last 9 games of the regroup season. But I wasn't fierce impressed with them. They signed 2 players, both of whom are steady Premier League players. We'll have to wait and see how they do as time goes on. It's too early to be making big judgments.
Make a big judgment.
How
long will Mourinho last?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, listening to him himself, he said that if you judge his season from the time when he came in, they finished 4th last year. All Spurs supporters will be happy if they finish 4th this year. But on the performance today, they're well short of that. But look, let's wait and see how it develops over the next few weeks. Busy time, the 9 games, the next 22 games, next 22 days, 9 games. They should be capable, even with their second team, of winning those Europa League matches and maybe the League Cup match. They need to get points in the Premier League with the games they have coming up. But it's Southampton, Newcastle, Manchester United. In that period, they're the games that they've got to get points in.
I've no doubt when you go home tonight in your unofficial role as, godfather of Irish football, the call will come from Stephen Kenny. You are watching the game, Brian. Seamus Coleman against Matt Doherty. The big decision he's going to face. Does he watch that game, thinking back, he's a different man, he's a different manager, but if you're watching that game and you have a big decision to make, are you reading anything into Seamus Coleman and Matt Doherty's performances? And if you are, what did you see today in terms of Ireland?
Well, I would think there's very little that Stephen Kenny didn't know in advance of his selection for the match with Bulgaria that he didn't know already that he learned today. But still, he decided to pick Matt Doherty for his first international. and for a second international against Finland. The key match for us all was obviously the Slovakia game. While Stephen made grandiose statements about the importance of the Nations League and ranking points and all those things that are kind of relevant, the Slovakia match is the one that really matters. So I think for all the players who were in the squad, he played, I think, 18 players over the 2 games. He would have had a good look at them in match conditions against reasonable, not great opposition, but Finland proved they're a decent side. And I think I said in an interview with Joe Malloy before Stephen's first match that every international match can be very difficult, that every country gets the best manager they can to run the team. He picks the best players he possibly can and puts them out with a tactical shape and plan that he thinks are going to get them results, and maybe a style of play, particular style of play to achieve those results. We saw that with Bulgaria, a team that haven't been in very good form, I think they'd won very few games in the last 10 games. We saw with Finland why they have qualified for the European finals. They won 6, lost 4 in the group. Good ability. So Stephen learned a lot in that time. Now he has a month to make his mind up about what the best team is to play in the way he wants them to play, in the shape he wants them to play against Slovakia. And I would allow him to make that decision. He's the best man in the circumstances to do that. But looking at today, if it was my judgment, Seamus Coleman was the better right back in a 4 from a defensive point of view. If that's what you want, a right back to defend in that area of the pitch and attack when the opportunity arises. But Stephen may have a different vision for what he wants from his right back and his left back. When you look at the positions, the average positions of Enda Stevens and Matt Doherty in the 2 games so far, they were in advanced positions up around the halfway line in both games. If Stephen wants them to start there, maybe he feels that Matt Doherty is better than that. I would like my right back maybe not to start quite so far and to be in touch with his centre backs in terms of as a defensive unit playing against Slovakia.
Yeah, and we might be looking back on this game totally different if Jordan Pickford hadn't made that brilliant save from Matt Doherty and he got a debut goal. But listen, it's no surprise to anyone that Seamus Coleman ain't going anywhere without a bit of a fight for his Irish place. Just to wrap up the weekend, because next week our live game on Sunday is Liverpool against Chelsea. It'll do well to match Liverpool leads last night 4-3. Liverpool conceded a lot of goals after the restart. We sort of put it down to they had the title won. They were just slightly off, but when they're at it, they're going to be at it. Like Virgil van Dijk's performance getting a lot of criticism, that bit of casualness, maybe a bit of arrogance creeping in. Yeah. Were there signs there that you would see that in Liverpool?
There's signs for everyone and hope for everyone that got battered by Liverpool last year that they may not be as good this season. There's a couple of things came into my mind about last night's game. One is that the fear factor and the edge that Liverpool had in playing at Anfield, the home matches last year, is out the window for this season. They had the league won by the time the league restarted last year. It was almost won. They just need to get a few points. But when you think back on the earlier part of the season, up to March, up to the close down, and what it was like for the opposition, how good Liverpool were at home, battering teams, even matches that looked like slipping away from them, could turn it around if they go to. You knew the crowd and the surge behind them when the momentum goes. They won't have that back in this year. They've got the same team, just signed an extra left back, the Greek lad who's impressive looking player. I like the look from with Greece and with Olympiacos. But, they've not added any extra players in midfield. Can the front three do it again for 4 seasons, 4th season in a row? It'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think there's every chance that's going to be much more even this year, and that I think the fact that there's no fans in the grounds will be a leveler. Home and away teams will be able to go and take every team on away from home who have that image of it's a hard place to go. That like Old Trafford, a hard place to go. Away to Chelsea, hard place to go. Stamford Bridge, all that. Manchester City, everyone will go there. I think we'll see an evening out of that home and away influence, let's say. So, you know, Liverpool conceded 3 goals last night. We're still able to pull out a 4th goal, lucky to get a penalty at the end. But, you know, certainly hope for other teams that they're not going to be miles ahead of everyone else this year. And they won't be, because Manchester City have to be better. Chelsea are certainly going to be better. And Manchester United are going to be better. To mention just 3.
Great stuff, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan.